Building that kind of wealth, we're talking generational wealth, it's not really about luck. It's not about that one magic idea. When you really dig in, you start to see that it's built on these incredibly specific, almost engineered blueprints. So let's break them down, right? Let's deconstruct these maps. This right here, this is the core idea we're diving into. Power, especially when we talk about money and influence, it's not some random thing. It's a machine. It's a system that's built on purpose, piece by piece. And the folks who get to the very, very top, they're not just playing the game better than everyone else. No way. They're literally building the board the game is played on. Okay, so what are these blueprints? We're going to break down 3 main strategies, 3 fundamental paths to building just massive amounts of wealth and control. And we'll uncover the different maps that some of the most powerful people in the world have followed. All right, the first blueprint. This one is probably the oldest and, honestly, the most brutal. We're not talking about apps or cool new algorithms here. This is about owning the physical stuff, the absolute non-negotiables of a society. I mean, the things a country literally cannot run without. So think about someone like Aliko Dangote. This kind of builder, they're not chasing the latest trend. No, they build the actual infrastructure that all the trends happen on. And yeah, this takes a ton of capital, for sure. But it also takes some serious political skill. You got to navigate those corridors of power to get licenses and keep competitors out. You're not going to get a standing ovation for making cement, but what you do get is leverage, real leverage. Because let's be real, when construction stops, whole economies can just grind to a halt. And here's the key move they all make. It's a strategic shift that is just crucial. A lot of them start out as traders, right? Just moving stuff around. But they figure out pretty fast that importing just makes you dependent on someone else. But manufacturing, oh, that makes you untouchable. You flip the script from being a price taker to a price maker, and suddenly governments are knocking on your door. It really all comes down to controlling the choke points. We're talking about the steel that builds the bridges, the minerals inside our phones, the cell towers that connect us, the ports that everything flows through. This is that quiet power. It's influence that's baked right into the system itself. Okay, but what if the foundation isn't physical? What if it's not concrete and steel? That brings us to our second blueprint, where we shift from the physical world into the abstract. This is all about mastering those invisible systems, things like software, data, and how capital gets moved around. And believe me, they are incredibly powerful. All right, so for this one, let's look at the archetype of someone like Robert F. Smith. He's not in a garage coding the next big thing. Nope, he buys companies that are already printing money. We're talking about kind of boring enterprise software, the kind with sticky long-term contracts. And then he just optimizes them to death. It is a pure, repeatable formula. And man, is this formula efficient, like ruthlessly so. Step 1, find some software that a giant Fortune 500 company absolutely cannot live without. Then you go in, you squeeze out every last drop of inefficiency, you quietly bump up the prices, and you just let that predictable recurring revenue roll in. The end game here isn't some splashy IPO, it's a huge repeatable check. Now, you've got to understand, this path is the complete opposite of your classic tech founder, right? Think of someone like Tope Oatona, who built Calendly from scratch. The founder, they're facing existential risk. Every single bug is on them. The product absolutely has to work or they're done. But the allocator, their risk is purely financial, and it's all calculated. They don't build anything. They just control the boardroom of a thing that's already proven to work. And there's a variation on this too. Call it the data strategist. Think Alex Karp of Palantir. With this model, you're not even selling a product to the public. You're selling insights to governments, to intelligence agencies. What happens is your software gets so woven into how they make decisions that for them to rip it out, well, it would be pretty much operational suicide. All right, on to blueprint number 3, and this one is maybe the most modern of all. This is all about taking something you can't even touch, like attention or trust or cultural influence, and systematically turning it into cold, hard equity on a balance sheet. The journey of Tyler Perry is the perfect example of this. It just perfectly captures the strategy. I mean, think about it. Why would you go audition for a role when you can own the soundstage, own the cameras, own the entire production company? See, getting cast means you need someone's permission. But ownership? That's sovereignty. This is the exact model that people like Jay-Z and Rihanna have absolutely mastered. For them, the music isn't the end goal. It's the doorway. It's how you build a huge, super loyal audience. And then, once you have that trust and attention, you redirect it towards assets you actually own. Spirit brands, beauty lines, sports agencies, you name it. The songs, they might get old, but the ownership, that doesn't. So cultural trust, that becomes the central asset. It's the engine. Take Fenty Beauty, for example. That wasn't just about selling makeup. It brilliantly solved a real problem in the market, a failure of inclusion. And by doing so, it converted all that trust directly into power on the balance sheet. Every single one of these ventures is an owned asset, and they're all built on that core foundation of audience loyalty. And you see this principle everywhere. It's universal. Oprah didn't just have a talk show, she built an entire media empire. LeBron James figured out early on that owning a piece of the pie is way better than just getting an endorsement check. And then you have others like Sheila Johnson, who quietly compound their wealth by turning franchises into these massive real estate portfolios. The theme is always the same. You have to prioritize ownership over a salary. Okay, so we've walked through 3 totally different blueprints, right? There's controlling the physical world, controlling the code, and controlling the narrative. But what's the one thing, the one big idea that connects all of them? The common thread, it's control. And here's the thing, none of these paths happen by accident. They are all strategic moves, responses to a system where, let's be honest, access to capital and opportunity was never handed out fairly. When the risk of failure isn't just losing money, but losing everything, you don't gamble, you lock down control. So these are the choke points, the critical junctions in the economy that these billionaires strategically went after and secured. They didn't just find a little niche to operate in. No, they seized control of a fundamental pillar of how an entire industry works, and that gives them this immense, almost untouchable leverage. And the result of following these blueprints? Well, the combined wealth of the people we've been talking about is somewhere around $90 billion. I mean, that's just a massive, almost impossible number to really wrap your head around. That is, until you realize that entire figure is eclipsed by just one single tech founder in a different ecosystem. And look, that's not to take anything away from their achievements. It's to shine a huge spotlight on the final, most important point here. It's about the systems that wealth gets built in. That massive difference in the final numbers, it's not because there's a gap in talent or drive or smarts. It's a systems gap. The networks you have access to, the capital you can get your hands on, the legal protections that are in place, all of that stuff within a particular system. That's what ultimately decides who gets to compound wealth at those crazy exponential levels. So when you look at these stories, they're not just about celebrating success. They're maps. They lay out different kinds of risks, different timelines, different sacrifices. Some will cost you your time, some might cost you your peace of mind, but not one of them is random. They're all engineered. So the only real question left is, which route would you take?